Dr. Amanda Price was cleaning her medical equipment when the alarm started screaming through the ship. She dropped her tools and ran to the bridge as fast as she could. The red lights were flashing everywhere and people were shouting orders. "What's happening?" Amanda asked as she reached Captain Jake Morrison. He was standing in front of the big screen looking worried. "We got a distress signal," Jake said without turning around. "But it's not from any human ship. The signal is coming from something we've never seen before." On the screen, Amanda could see a huge shape floating in space. It looked like a mountain made of crystal, but it was moving slowly through the darkness. Strange lights were blinking all over its surface. "How big is that thing?" Amanda whispered. "About 10 times bigger than our ship," said Lieutenant Commander Danny Webb. He was the person in charge of weapons and fighting. "Captain, I don't think we should go near it. We don't know if they're friendly." Jake looked at the alien ship for a long time. The New Horizons was an exploration ship, not a warship. They had come out here to find new worlds and make friends with aliens, not to fight. They're asking for help?" Jake said finally. "That's what a distress signal means. We can't just fly away and leave someone to die." Danny shook his head. "Sir, that ship could destroy us in seconds." "What if it's a trap?" Amanda stepped forward. "Captain, I agree with you. If someone needs medical help, we should try to help." That's what we do," Jake nodded. "Danny, I understand your worries, but we're explorers, not soldiers. We came out here to meet new people and help them." "That's exactly what we're going to do," he turned to his crew. "Everyone get ready. We're going to answer their call for help." The next hour was very busy. Everyone on the ship was getting ready to meet aliens for the first time. Amanda packed her medical bag with extra supplies. She didn't know what kind of creatures they would find, but someone was hurt and needed help. Jake picked a small team to go with him to the alien ship. Amanda would come as the doctor. Danny would come to protect them. Lisa Chen would come to help them talk to the aliens. Bobby Sullivan would come to fix anything that broke. They used the small shuttle to fly over to the crystal ship. As they got closer, Amanda could see that the ship was even more beautiful than she thought. The whole thing was made of some kind of crystal that changed colors in the light. "Look at the size of that door," Bobby said as their shuttle got ready to land. The door to the alien ship was huge, like it was made for giants. They landed their shuttle in a big room inside the alien ship. When they stepped out, Amanda felt very small. Everything around them was built for creatures much bigger than humans. The ceiling was so high she could barely see it. Then they heard footsteps. Heavy footsteps that made the floor shake under their feet. "Stay together," Jake whispered, "and remember, we're here to help." The creatures that came to meet them were like nothing Amanda had ever seen. They looked like dragons from old stories, but they were real. They walked on 2 legs like people, but they were covered in scales that shined like jewels. They were huge, at least 3 times taller than any human. The dragon in front was the biggest. His scales were deep blue and silver, and his eyes were like fire. When he spoke, his voice was so deep it made Amanda's chest shake. "I am War Commander Zephyros of the Draconic Hegemony," the dragon said. He looked down at the humans like they were insects. "You are the little animals who answered our signal?" Amanda felt angry at being called an animal, but Jake put his hand on her arm to keep her calm. "I am Captain Jake Morrison," Jake said in a strong voice. "We got your distress call and came to help. This is Dr. Amanda Price, our medical officer." Zephyros made a sound that might have been laughing, but it wasn't a happy sound. "You think you little creatures can help us? Look at you. You are so small and weak. What could you possibly do that we cannot do ourselves?" "We don't know until you tell us what's wrong," Amanda said, stepping forward. She wasn't going to let this dragon scare her. "Someone on your ship needs medical help. That's why we're here." The dragon looked down at her with surprise. He probably wasn't used to such small creatures talking back to him. "You have courage, little animal," Zephyros said. "Very well. Follow me, but do not touch anything and do not speak unless I tell you to." They followed the dragons through long hallways made of crystal. Amanda saw many more dragons as they walked. Some were working on strange machines, others were standing guard. All of them stopped to stare at the tiny humans walking past. Finally, they came to a huge room that looked like a temple. In the center of the room was the biggest dragon Amanda had ever seen. He was lying on a platform made of gold and crystal, and he looked very sick. "This is Ancient Keeper Paraxis," Zephyros said, and his voice was full of sadness. "He is our greatest leader and our wisest teacher. He has lived for 1,000 of your years and has led our people through many wars." Amanda could see that the great dragon was in terrible pain. One side of his face was swollen and he was breathing hard. Even lying down, he was bigger than their entire shuttle. "What's wrong with him?" Amanda asked quietly. "The poison spreads through his body," said another dragon who came up to them. This one was smaller than Zephyros, and her scales were green and gold. "I am Medical Castorelia. I have tried everything our science knows, but nothing works. The poison grows stronger each day." Amanda walked closer to the sick dragon, even though the other dragons made angry sounds. She looked carefully at his swollen face and saw something that made her heart jump. "Captain," she said quietly to Jake, "I think I know what's wrong with him." "What is it?" Jake asked. "It looks like a dental infection, a bad tooth that's gotten infected. The infection is spreading through his whole body." Zephyros stepped between Amanda and the sick dragon. "You dare to say that our greatest leader is sick because of a tooth, like some weak creature?" "Infections don't care how strong you are," Amanda said firmly. "If it's not treated, it will kill him." The room became very quiet. All the dragons were staring at the tiny human, who had just said she could help their dying leader. Ancient Keeper Paraxis opened one huge eye and looked at Amanda. When he spoke, his voice was so weak they could barely hear it. "Little creature," he whispered, "do you truly believe you can help me?" Amanda looked up at the huge dragon and felt scared, but she also felt determined. "I can try," she said. "But I'll need to examine you more closely, and I'll need my team to help me." Paraxis closed his eye and was quiet for a long moment. The other dragons waited to hear what he would say. "Let them try," Paraxis finally whispered. "If these little animals can do what our great science cannot do, then perhaps there is more to them than meets the eye." Zephyros looked angry, but he didn't argue with his leader. "Very well," he said to Amanda. "But if you fail, if you cause him more pain, you will answer to me." Amanda nodded. She wasn't sure if she could really help a dragon, but she was going to try her best. After all, a tooth was a tooth, no matter how big it was. Amanda walked slowly around the giant dragon, looking at him carefully. Ancient Keeper Paraxis was even more magnificent up close. His scales were like looking at a rainbow made of emeralds and gold. Each scale was bigger than Amanda's hand, and they glowed softly in the temple light, but the great dragon was clearly very sick. The left side of his massive head was swollen so badly that his eye was almost closed. She could see that he was having trouble breathing, and a terrible smell came from his mouth when he tried to speak. "How long has he been like this?" Amanda asked Medical Castorelia. The green dragon looked uncomfortable. "The swelling began 20 days ago. At first, Ancient Keeper Paraxis said it was nothing. He is very proud and does not like to show weakness, but each day it got worse." Amanda nodded. That sounded exactly like a dental infection that had been ignored for too long. "Has he been able to eat?" "Very little," Aurelia said sadly. "He tries to eat to show strength, but we can see that it causes him great pain. He has not had a real meal in 10 days. "And you said this poison is spreading through his body?" "Yes. His temperature rises and falls like ocean waves. Sometimes he shivers even though his body is hot. Our healing crystals can do nothing for him." Amanda felt more sure that she was right. Those were all signs of a bad infection spreading through the blood. She had seen the same thing in human patients, just much smaller. "I need to look inside his mouth," Amanda said. War Commander Zephyros stepped forward quickly. "You will not. Put your tiny hands near his teeth. Dragon teeth can cut through metal. If he moves while sleeping, he could bite you in half without meaning to." "I understand the danger," Amanda said calmly, "but I can't help him if I can't see what's wrong." She turned to Ancient Keeper Paraxis. The huge dragon was watching her with his one good eye. Even sick and in pain, he looked very intelligent and very proud. "Ancient Keeper," Amanda said in a respectful voice, "I need to examine your mouth to find out what's making you sick. I promise to be very careful." Paraxis was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke in his weak, deep voice. "You are very brave, little healer. Most creatures run away when they see dragon teeth. Very well. I will try to hold very still." The other dragons moved back to give them room, but Amanda could feel them all watching her closely. If she hurt their leader, even by accident, they would probably kill her. Jake came up beside her. "Amanda, are you sure about this? Maybe we should go back to our ship and make some kind of long tool to examine him from farther away." "There isn't time," Amanda said quietly. "Look at him, Jake. He's getting weaker by the hour. If I'm right about what's wrong, every day we wait makes it more dangerous." Bobby Sullivan was already pulling equipment out of his bag. "What do you need, Doc?" "Lights. First of all, I need to see inside his mouth clearly. And I'll need the medical scanner to take pictures of his teeth." Bobby started setting up powerful lights while Lisa Chun worked on her translation computer. The dragons had their own language, but they also spoke a common trade language that the computer could understand better. "Ancient Keeper Paraxis," Amanda said, "I'm going to shine lights into your mouth and use a small device to take pictures. It won't hurt, but it might feel strange." The great dragon slowly opened his mouth. Amanda had to step back quickly. His mouth was huge, big enough that she could walk inside it if she wanted to. His teeth were like white and silver swords, each one as long as her arm, but she could also see the problem right away. One of his back teeth was black and broken, and the gum around it was red and swollen. Yellow liquid was coming out around the tooth, and the smell was terrible. "There," Amanda said, pointing with her flashlight. "That's the problem." Aurelia moved closer to look. "I see the damaged tooth. But how can one tooth make him so sick?" "The tooth is infected," Amanda explained. "Bad bacteria are growing inside it and around it. Those bacteria make poison that goes into his blood and spreads through his whole body." She turned to Bobby. "Can you get pictures of that tooth from different angles? We need to see how bad the infection is." Bobby climbed up on a platform that the dragons brought for him and took many pictures with the medical scanner. The pictures showed up on a small screen that everyone could see. "Look," Amanda said, pointing to the pictures. "You can see how the infection has eaten away at the bone around the tooth. And see this dark area? That's where the infection is spreading toward his brain." The dragons all made worried sounds. Aurelia looked very upset. "But our healing crystals should be able to fix damaged bone. Why do they not work?" "Because your crystals heal injuries and wounds," Amanda said. "But they don't kill bacteria. Your people probably never had to deal with infections like this before." War Commander Zephyros looked angry. "You are saying that our great medical science cannot cure something that you tiny creatures understand?" Amanda looked up at the huge dragon commander. "I'm saying that different kinds of life have different kinds of problems. You dragons are much stronger than us and you live much longer, but sometimes being different means knowing different things." She turned back to Paraxis. "Ancient Keeper, I believe I can help you. But the tooth will have to come out, and I'll need to clean out all the infection. It won't be easy, and it might hurt." Paraxis looked at her with his one good eye. "Little healer, I have lived for 1,000 years and fought in 100 battles. I am not afraid of pain. But are you sure you can help me? I've done this same operation on humans many times," Amanda said. "Never on anyone as big as you, but the principles are the same." Suddenly, another dragon came into the temple. This one was younger than the others, with bright red and black scales. He walked with the confident step of a warrior who thought he was very important. "War Commander Zephyros," the young dragon said loudly. "I am Sub-Commander Talon. I have come as soon as I heard about this shameful situation." Zephyros looked annoyed. "What situation, Talon?" "The situation where we allow weak little animals to touch our greatest leader," Talon said, looking down at Amanda with disgust. "This is not the dragon way. Ancient Keeper Paraxis should die." With honor if he must die, not be poked and prodded by inferior creatures. Amanda felt her face get hot with anger, but Jake put a warning hand on her shoulder. Paraxis raised his great head and looked at the young dragon. Even sick, his voice carried authority. Sub-Commander Talon, these creatures answered our distress call when they could have ignored it. They offered to help when our own healers have given up hope. This shows courage and honor. It shows weakness, Talon argued. What will other species think when they hear that the mighty, draconic hegemony needed help from creatures so small they could be stepped on by accident? They will think that we are wise enough to accept help when it is offered, Paraxis said. Firmly and brave enough to try new things when old ways fail. Talon's eyes got bright with anger, but he didn't argue with the ancient keeper directly. Instead, he turned to the other dragons in the room. How many of you agree with this decision? He asked loudly. How many think we should let these little animals experiment on our greatest leader? Some of the younger dragons started talking among themselves. Amanda could see that not all of them agreed with letting humans help. Aurelia stepped forward. I have studied healing for 200 years, she said. Our methods are not working. If these humans have knowledge that can save ancient keeper Paraxis, we should listen to them. And if they kill him with their primitive methods? Talon demanded. Then he dies trying to live instead of just waiting to die, Aurelia replied. Amanda looked around the room at all the dragons arguing about her. She felt very small and very far from home. But when she looked at Paraxis, she saw that he was watching her, not the other dragons. Little healer, Paraxis said quietly, do not let their fears frighten you. I have made my decision. If you are willing to try to help me, then I am willing to let you try. Amanda took a deep breath and nodded. Then let's get started. Amanda spent the next hour studying the pictures of Paraxis's infected tooth. She sat on the floor next to the great dragon's head, making notes and plans. The ancient keeper had closed his eyes to rest, but she could tell he was listening to everything she said. Bobby, Amanda called to the engineer, I need you to make some special tools for me. Dragon teeth are much bigger and harder than human teeth. My normal dental tools won't work? Bobby came over with his tablet computer. What do you need, Doc? I need dental forceps that can grip a tooth this size, Amanda said, holding her hands apart to show how big the dragon's tooth was. And I need them strong enough to pull out something that's probably stuck in there pretty tight. That's going to be tough, Bobby said, looking at the measurements. Dragon teeth are made of some kind of crystal material. It's harder than steel. Ken, you make the tools? Jake asked. Bobby thought for a moment. Yeah, I can do it. The ship's fabricator can make tools out of the same material we use for cutting through asteroid rock. But it's going to take me a few hours. While Bobby went back to the ship to make the tools, Amanda worked on the next problem. She needed medicine to fight the infection, but she didn't know if human antibiotics would work on dragons. Medical cast. Aurelia, Amanda said, can you tell me about dragon blood? How is it different from human blood? The green dragon looked interested. Our blood carries liquid crystal instead of what you call iron. It helps us heal faster and makes us stronger. Why do you ask? Because I need to give ancient keeper Paraxis medicine to fight the infection, Amanda explained. But medicine that works for humans might not work for dragons, Aurelia nodded. This is wise thinking. Our healers learned long ago that medicines for different species can be dangerous. What do you need to know? Amanda and Aurelia spent the next 2 hours comparing human and dragon biology. Lisa Chun helped translate the complicated medical terms. They discovered that dragons and humans were more similar than anyone expected, but there were important differences too. I think I can modify our antibiotics to work for dragon biology, Amanda said finally. But I'll need to start with a very small amount to make sure it's safe. During this time, Amanda noticed that ancient keeper Paraxis was watching her work. Even though he was very sick, his eyes showed intelligence and curiosity. You are very careful, little healer, Paraxis said, in his weak voice. Most creatures who offer to help want to start cutting and healing right away, but you study first. It's important to understand the problem before trying to fix it, Amanda said. I don't want to hurt you by accident. This shows wisdom. Paraxis said, "Tell me, what is your world like? Are all your people healers?" Amanda smiled. It was the first time she had really talked to the Ancient Keeper as a person instead of just a patient. "No, we have many different kinds of people. I became a doctor because I wanted to help others feel better when they were hurt or sick. Even if those others are much bigger than you and could hurt you easily? Size doesn't matter when someone needs help," Amanda said simply. Paraxis was quiet for a long moment. "You have taught me something today, little healer. I have lived for 1,000 years, but I never thought about healing in the way you do." Their conversation was interrupted when Subcommander Talon came back into the temple with several other young dragons. They all looked angry and determined. "War Commander Zephyros," Talon said loudly, "I have spoken with many of our people. We do not agree with this plan to let aliens touch our Ancient Keeper." Zephyros stood up to his full height, which made him look very dangerous. "Sub-Commander Talon, you forget your place. Ancient Keeper Paraxis has made his decision." "Ancient Keeper Paraxis is sick and may not be thinking clearly," Talon replied boldly. "It is our duty to protect him, even from his own choices." Amanda felt the tension in the room get much worse. The dragons were starting to pick sides, and she was in the middle of it all. Danny Webb, who had been standing quietly near the door, moved closer to Amanda and Jake. "Captain, I think we might have a problem here." "I see it," Jake said quietly. "Everyone stay calm." Paraxis opened his eyes and looked at the arguing dragons. When he spoke, his voice was still weak, but it carried the authority of centuries. "Sub-Commander Talon, you are young and you think strength means never accepting help. But I have lived long enough to know that true strength sometimes means admitting you don't know everything." "But Ancient Keeper," Talon protested, "these creatures are so small and fragile. How can they possibly help you when our greatest healers cannot?" "Watch and learn," Paraxis said simply. Bobby came back from the ship carrying a bag of new tools. "Doc, I've got your dental equipment ready." These forceps could pull out a tree if you needed them to. Amanda looked at the tools Bobby had made. They were much bigger than anything she had ever used, but they looked like they would work. "Perfect. Now I need to prepare the antibiotic treatment." She mixed a small amount of modified antibiotic in a container of dragon-compatible fluid. The mixture glowed slightly, which seemed to interest the dragons. "Ancient Keeper Paraxis," Amanda said, "I'm going to give you some medicine first. It will help fight the infection and make you feel a little better. Then tomorrow, when you're stronger, we'll remove the bad tooth." "Why wait?" Talon demanded. "If you're going to do this dangerous thing, why not do it now?" Amanda looked up at the young dragon. "Because right now, Ancient Keeper Paraxis is very weak from fighting the infection. The operation will be hard on his body. I want him to be as strong as possible before we start." Aurelia nodded approvingly. "This shows good medical thinking. We dragons sometimes try to push through problems with strength alone, but healing requires patience too." Amanda carefully injected the antibiotic mixture into Paraxis's arm. The needle looked tiny against his massive scales, but he didn't even seem to feel it. "How do you feel?" Amanda asked after a few minutes. "Strange," Paraxis said thoughtfully. "I feel ... cooler, the burning feeling in my blood is less." "That's the medicine starting to work," Amanda explained. "The infection has been making your body too hot. As the medicine kills the bad bacteria, your temperature should go back to normal." Over the next few hours, the change in Paraxis was amazing. His fever went down, and he was able to drink some water without pain. The swelling in his face got a little smaller, and he could open his eye better. "I have not felt this good in many days," Paraxis said, and his voice was already stronger. "Little healer, your medicine is like magic." "It's not magic," Amanda said. "It's just science, but I'm glad it's helping." The dragons who had been watching were impressed. Even some of Talon's supporters started to look less angry and more curious, but Talon himself looked more upset than ever. "This proves nothing," he said loudly. "Anyone can make someone feel better for a short time. The real test will be tomorrow when she tries to cut into Ancient Keeper Paraxis." "Then tomorrow you will see," Paraxis said calmly. And you will learn, as I am learning, that wisdom can come from the most unexpected places. As the day ended, Amanda felt hopeful but nervous. The antibiotic was working, which was good news. But tomorrow she would have to perform surgery on a patient bigger than a house. While hostile dragons watched her every move, Jake came up beside her as she packed her medical supplies. "How are you feeling about tomorrow?" "Scared," Amanda admitted, "but also excited. If this works, it could change how humans and dragons see each other forever. And if it doesn't work?" Amanda looked up at Ancient Keeper Paraxis, who was resting more peacefully than he had in weeks. "Then at least we tried to help someone who needed it. That's what humans do." As the humans prepared to return to their ship for the night, Paraxis called out to Amanda. "Little healer," he said softly, "thank you for your courage. Tomorrow, whatever happens, you have already shown me something important about your people." Amanda smiled up at the great dragon. "What's that?" "You have shown me that the biggest hearts sometimes come in the smallest bodies." The next morning, Amanda woke up with butterflies in her stomach. Today was the day she would try to save Ancient Keeper Paraxis by removing his infected tooth. She had done thousands of tooth extractions on humans, but never on a dragon. Size of a building. When the human team arrived at the dragon ship, they found the temple full of dragons. Word had spread throughout the ship about what was going to happen. Some dragons looked curious, others looked worried, and a few looked angry. "It seems like everyone wants to watch," Jake said quietly to Amanda as they walked through the crowd of giant dragons. "No pressure at all," Amanda replied, trying to sound braver than she felt. Ancient Keeper Paraxis looked much better than he had the day before. The antibiotic treatment had worked well. His fever was gone, the swelling in his face was smaller, and his eyes were bright and alert. "Good morning, little healer," Paraxis said when he saw Amanda. "I feel much stronger today thanks to your medicine." "That's wonderful," Amanda said. "Are you ready for the surgery?" "I am ready," Paraxis said calmly. "But first I want to say something to my people." The great dragon raised his head and looked around the temple at all the dragons who had come to watch. His voice carried clearly through the huge room. "My people," Paraxis began, "today you will see something that has never happened before. A creature much smaller than us will try to heal me in a way we do not understand. Some of you think this is wrong or dangerous." He paused and looked directly at Sub-Commander Talon, who was standing with a group of young dragons near the back of the room. "But I have lived for 1,000 years, and I have learned that wisdom comes from many places. These small humans have already helped me more in 2 days than our healers could in 20 days. Today I trust them with my life." Amanda felt a warm feeling in her chest. The Ancient Keeper's words made her feel braver and more determined. Bobby had set up all the equipment they would need. The new dental tools looked strange next to the regular human medical equipment, but Amanda hoped they would work. Lisa Chun had her translation computer ready, and Danny Webb was watching the crowd of dragons carefully. "Okay, Ancient Keeper," Amanda said. "I need you to lie down and open your mouth as wide as you can. This is going to take a while, and I need you to stay very still." Paraxis lay down on his platform and opened his massive mouth. Amanda could see the infected tooth clearly now. It looked even worse than it had the day before, black and broken with yellow infection around it. "Bobby, I need the lights positioned right here," Amanda said, pointing into the dragon's mouth. As Bobby set up the bright lights, Amanda realized she had a problem. Paraxis's mouth was so big that she couldn't reach the infected tooth from outside. She was going to have to go inside his mouth to do the surgery. "Jake," Amanda said quietly, "I'm going to need to get a lot closer than I planned." Jake looked at the huge dragon's mouth with its sword-like teeth. "How much closer?" "I'm going to have to go inside," Amanda said. Danny Webb stepped forward quickly. "Doc, that's way too dangerous. If he closes his mouth by accident, or if he coughs, or if anything goes wrong—" "I know the risks," Amanda said, "but it's the only way to reach the tooth. I can't do the surgery from out here." She turned to Paraxis. "Ancient Keeper, I need to climb into your mouth to reach the bad tooth. Can you promise to keep your mouth open and stay very still, no matter what happens?" Paraxis's eyes showed understanding and worry. Little healer, this is very dangerous for you. My teeth are sharp and my jaw is strong. If something goes wrong, then we'll deal with it, Amanda said simply. But if we don't try, you'll die from this infection. I'm not going to let that happen. The dragons in the temple were talking loudly among themselves. Many of them looked shocked at what Amanda was planning to do. Sub-Commander Talon pushed through the crowd. This is madness, he shouted. War Commander Zephyros, you cannot allow this tiny creature to put herself in such danger. When she dies, her people will blame us. The risk is mine to take, Amanda said, looking up at Talon. And Ancient Keeper Paraxis has already agreed. Talon turned to the other dragons. Look at this foolishness. She's going to climb into the mouth of our greatest leader like she is some kind of tiny warrior. This is not healing, this is suicide. Maybe, said Medical Cast Aurelia, stepping forward. But it is also the bravest thing I have ever seen anyone do. If she is willing to risk her life to save Ancient Keeper Paraxis, then she has my respect. More dragons started talking at once. Some agreed with Talon that it was too dangerous. Others agreed with Aurelia that Amanda was being very brave. The arguing got louder and louder. Enough, Paraxis said, and his deep voice made everyone quiet. I have made my decision. Little healer, if you are brave enough to try, then I am honored to let you try. Amanda took a deep breath and picked up the special dental tools Bobby had made. Okay, let's do this. Jake grabbed her arm. Amanda, are you absolutely sure about this? No, Amanda said honestly. But I'm going to do it anyway. She climbed up on a platform that brought her level with Paraxis's mouth. The dragon's breath smelled terrible from the infection, but she tried not to think about it. She put on a headlamp and checked her tools one more time. Remember, she said to Paraxis, stay very still no matter what. I'm going to be pulling hard on your tooth and it might hurt. I understand, Paraxis said. I will not move. Amanda took another deep breath and stepped into the dragon's mouth. It was like walking into a cave made of knives. Paraxis's teeth surrounded her on all sides, each one sharp enough to cut her in half. The floor of his mouth was warm and wet, and she had to be very careful not to slip. She made her way to the back of his mouth, where the infected tooth was. Up close, it looked even worse than she had thought. The tooth was cracked all the way down to the root, and infection was oozing out around it. Okay, Ancient Keeper, Amanda called out, her voice echoing strangely inside his mouth. I'm going to start now. This is going to hurt, but try not to move. She positioned the dental forceps around the infected tooth and began to pull. The tooth was stuck tight, and she had to use all her strength. Sweat dripped down her face as she worked. Outside the dragon's mouth, she could hear the other dragons talking nervously. Some were encouraging Paraxis to stay still, others were arguing about whether to stop the surgery. Suddenly, there was a loud crack. The infected tooth broke free from Paraxis's jaw. Amanda stumbled backward, almost falling, but managed to keep her balance. I got it, she called out, holding up the huge tooth. It was as big as her arm and black with infection, but as she started to move toward the front of Paraxis's mouth, she heard shouting from outside. Through the dragon's open mouth, she could see Sub-Commander Talon arguing with War Commander Zephyros. This has gone far enough, Talon was saying. Ancient Keeper Paraxis is weakened by this procedure. Now is the time for new leadership. Talon, you forget yourself, Zephyros replied angrily. I challenge the old ways, Talon declared loudly. Any dragon who needs help from inferior creatures is not fit to lead us. More dragons started taking sides. Some supported Talon, others supported Zephyros. The argument was getting more and more heated. Amanda realized she was trapped inside Paraxis's mouth while a dragon civil war was starting around her. And the Ancient Keeper couldn't speak or move to stop it without risking her life. Jake, Amanda called out as loudly as she could. I think we have a problem. Amanda was still inside Paraxis's mouth, holding the infected tooth when the dragon civil war started around her. She could see through his open mouth that the temple was dividing into two groups. Young dragons were moving to stand behind Sub-Commander Talon, while older dragons stayed loyal to War Commander Zephyros. "Ancient Keeper Paraxis is weak," Talon was shouting to the crowd. "Look at him lying there with a tiny alien inside his mouth. Is this the mighty leader you want to follow?" Amanda realized that Paraxis couldn't defend himself or speak without closing his mouth, which would crush her. The great dragon was trapped just like she was. Jake and his team were standing near Paraxis's head, but they looked very small compared to the huge dragons arguing around them. Danny Webb had his hand on his weapon, but Amanda knew that human weapons wouldn't do much good against dragons. "Jake," Amanda called out from inside Paraxis's mouth, "I need to get out of here so Ancient Keeper Paraxis can speak for himself." But as Amanda started to move toward the front of the dragon's mouth, she saw something that made her heart stop. The tooth she had pulled out was still bleeding, and blood was filling up the back of Paraxis's mouth. If she didn't stop the bleeding quickly, the Ancient Keeper could drown in his own blood. Amanda looked at the infected tooth socket and saw that she had torn a blood vessel when she pulled out the tooth. This was exactly the kind of complication she had been worried about, and it was happening at the worst possible time. "Bobby!" Amanda shouted as loudly as she could. "I need the emergency clotting gel right now." Bobby grabbed the medical supplies and climbed up to the platform. "What's wrong, Doc?" "He's bleeding too much," Amanda said, pointing to the blood pooling in the back of Paraxis's throat. "If I don't stop this bleeding, he could die." "But the dragons are fighting," Bobby said, looking at the chaos in the temple. "Maybe we should." "Get out of here." "I'm not leaving my patient," Amanda said firmly. "Hand me the clotting gel." While Amanda worked to stop the bleeding, the argument between the dragons was getting worse. Talon was telling everyone that the old ways had failed and that dragons needed strong leadership, not weak leaders who depended on aliens. "Fellow dragons," Talon declared, "I claim the right to lead by combat. Ancient Keeper Paraxis cannot even defend himself because he has a tiny creature in his mouth. This proves he is unfit to rule." War Commander Zephyros stepped forward angrily. "Ancient Keeper Paraxis is undergoing medical treatment. You cannot challenge him now." "I can challenge anyone, anytime," Talon replied. "That is dragon law." Amanda worked as fast as she could to apply the clotting gel to the bleeding tooth socket. The gel would stop the bleeding, but she needed to make sure it was applied correctly or Paraxis could still be in danger. "Almost done," Amanda muttered to herself as she worked. "Just hold on, Ancient Keeper." Finally, the bleeding stopped. Amanda quickly cleaned out the last of the infected material from the tooth socket and applied antibiotic gel to prevent new infection. "Okay, Ancient Keeper Paraxis," Amanda called out. "The surgery is finished. You can close your mouth now, but do it very slowly so I can get out." Paraxis began to close his huge mouth very carefully. Amanda hurried toward the front, climbing over his massive tongue. As soon as she was safely out, Paraxis closed his mouth and raised his great head. The effect on the room was immediate. Many of the dragons who had been listening to Talon suddenly remembered who they were really arguing about. Ancient Keeper Paraxis was their most respected leader, and seeing him healthy and strong again reminded them of his wisdom and power. "Sub-Commander Talon," Paraxis said, and his voice was stronger than it had been in weeks. "You speak of strength and weakness, but you do not understand what either word means." Talon looked surprised to hear Paraxis speaking so clearly, but he didn't back down. "Ancient Keeper, you allowed aliens to invade your body. You showed weakness to our enemies." Paraxis stood up to his full height. Without the pain and fever from the infection, he looked magnificent and powerful again. "I showed wisdom, young dragon. These small humans risked their lives to save mine. That little healer climbed into my mouth knowing I could accidentally kill her with one movement." He turned to look at Amanda, who was cleaning dragon blood off her clothes. She could have stayed safely on her ship, but she came to help a stranger. She could have tried to treat me from a distance, but she put herself in danger to do the job right. "Tell me, Talon, what is stronger? Pride that lets you die alone, or courage that lets you accept help when you need it?" Talon looked around the room and saw that many dragons were nodding in agreement with Paraxis. But Ancient Keeper, they are so small and weak. How can creatures like that teach us anything? Paraxis smiled, showing his remaining teeth. Watch and learn, young dragon. He turned to Amanda and, to everyone's surprise, lowered his great head, until he was looking at her at eye level. Little healer, he said gently, you have saved my life and taught me something important. From now on, I will not call you little animal anymore. What will you call me? Amanda asked, smiling up at the huge dragon. I will call you Little Dragon, Paraxis said, because you have shown the heart of a dragon in the body of a tiny creature. You are brave, you are wise, and you fight too. Protect others even when they are much bigger than you. The dragons in the temple began to understand what Paraxis was saying. Amanda had shown all the qualities that dragons valued most: courage, wisdom, and the willingness to fight for what was right. Medical Cast Aurelia stepped forward. Ancient Keeper Paraxis is right. These humans have knowledge that we need. Little Dragon Amanda, would you be willing to teach our healers about fighting infections? I would be honored to, Amanda replied. War Commander Zephyros looked at Sub-Commander Talon. Do you still think these humans are inferior creatures? Talon looked embarrassed. He had seen Amanda risk her life to save their greatest leader, and he couldn't argue with the results. Perhaps, he said slowly, I was wrong about them. Paraxis nodded approvingly. It takes wisdom to admit when you are wrong, Talon. That is the first step toward true strength. Over the next few hours, everything changed. The dragons who had been arguing started working together again. Medical Cast Aurelia began learning about human medicine from Amanda. War Commander Zephyros started planning cultural exchanges between dragons and humans. Jake found Amanda sitting quietly near Paraxis, looking tired but happy. How are you feeling? Good, Amanda said. Scared, exhausted, but good. I think we just made some very important friends. Paraxis opened one eye and looked at her. Little Dragon Amanda, your people are welcome among the draconic hegemony anytime. You have shown us that size does not determine worth, and that the strongest hearts sometimes come in the smallest bodies. Amanda smiled up at her enormous patient. And you've shown me that the biggest dragons can have the gentlest souls. As the human team prepared to return to their ship, Paraxis called out one more time. Little Dragon Amanda, thank you for coming. When we called for help, thank you for being brave enough to climb into the mouth of a dragon. And thank you for teaching an old dragon that wisdom comes from unexpected places. Amanda waved goodbye to her new friends. As their shuttle flew back to the new horizons, she looked out the window at the beautiful crystal dragon ship and smiled. She had come out here to explore the galaxy and meet new people. Today she had made friends with dragons, and the dragons had learned that sometimes the most important help comes from the smallest helpers. From that day forward, whenever dragons met humans, they remembered the story of the little dragon who wasn't afraid of big teeth. And they treated all humans with respect and friendship. The galaxy had become a little bit smaller and a lot more friendly because one small human was brave enough to say, I can help, when someone much bigger needed healing.